Kelly with the NASCAR Hall of Fame and Motor Racing Network, and it's my pleasure to welcome all the media and people from Hendrick Motorsports and throughout the NASCAR industry for this monumental day in NASCAR history. It is entirely a historic occasion as one of our greatest ever begins the process of stepping away from full-time competition. I'm not one to say the greatest ever in any sport, whether we're talking about Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Michael Jordan. But I believe people like that are among the benchmarks to which future generations aspire to be. And while I won't enter into the debate of who the greatest of all time is in NASCAR, I would suggest that we would be hard-pressed to find anyone in the industry that's knowledgeable about NASCAR who wouldn't put Jimmie Johnson on NASCAR's Mount Rushmore of drivers. In fact, the debate might be who's the fourth. But for all of Jimmie's accomplishments in NASCAR, I think the impact that he has made and his legacy, in my opinion, will be just as much for what he has done off the track as what he has done for the sport, as well as what he has done in the sport. And perhaps most notably, his class, his character, and the respect for all and respect that others have for him, and the respect that he has exhibited, win or lose, in good times and bad. And on top of that, he's an incredible father and devoted husband, which I'm confident we've all witnessed over the years. I've said numerous times how much I appreciate that Jimmie treats each of us the same today as we as we close out what is clearly a lock on a first ballot NASCAR Hall of Fame inductee, as he did in 2000 and 2001 when he won a grand total of one race and four top five finishes in 64 starts. To me, that is character. That is class. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to invite Jimmie's daughters, Genevieve and Lydia Johnson, to please join me on the stage. Girls, please join us.
Good afternoon. My name is Genevieve Johnson, and this is my sister Lydia. On behalf of our entire family, we would like to thank you for all being here. Today is a very special announcement. We would like to ask Mr. Hendrick, owner of Hendrick Motorsports and the driver of the number 48 Ally Chevrolet, 7-time champion, NASCAR champion, our dad, Jimmie Johnson, to please join us on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
That might say it all about what we were talking about. And as you might imagine, that's how Jimmie wanted it. Family has always been at the top of the list. And while I'm tempted to ask certain questions about this process, I think I'm more interested in what happened when you told the girls. What was their reaction? What did they say?
Yesterday, we were having breakfast, and I've shown the girls the video that we pushed out on social media. And breakfast is a very important part of the day and a very focal point for my kids. And Lydia was midway through her pancakes when I started the video, and could not really be bothered by the video and wanted me to pass the butter.
So your retirement announcement was trumped by butter.
It was, and she is a big fan of butter.
And the press conference was just trumped by what? Makeup?
Makeup, yes. So the makeup that we put on occasionally, Winston doesn't need it. He looks so good. But Lydia, they opened up the makeup bag upstairs, and Lydia's eyes about popped out of her
Her
head.
eyes got this big. So we know where her focus is. What Genevieve say?
She's been processing it. She just wants Dad to be happy, and it's been an exciting couple of days. And I'm so proud of you for coming up here and speaking, Evie. I know that was tough.
So what have the last few days been like since all this has come to fruition?
You know, it's been interesting because I've worked through my headspace, and then came to see Rick and spent some time with Jeff. And that's all 3 weeks to a month ago, if not a little longer. And I'm a little further down the road, and so excited to be where I am today, and be in this press conference today, and to tell everyone what my plans are. So I'm very excited, and just ready to get 2020 started. So the process has been interesting. Telling friends, telling my team yesterday to sit the team down. People that have worked on the 48 from the beginning. That was probably one of the harder moments, I think, that I had. Cliff and I went to dinner the other night. I'm not sure he completely thought it was coming out of left field, but I did catch his attention when I mentioned it to him. But I don't know, it's been an interesting process, and a day that you can never really plan for. But it's here, and I'm just thankful to be with family and friends, and this man right here, and all that he's done for my life. And we're going to have a good time.
Think back over the past 24, 26 hours, the reaction from the industry, from the fans. I know what I scrolled through, especially last night and this morning. What's your reaction been to that? What stood out in your mind?
It's been amazing. When I look back on the years I've had so far in NASCAR, I fall back to the experiences and the people. Those are the memories that come to mind, not holding a trophy in victory lane or on the stage in Las Vegas, as we did so many times. It's the people. So to see some of my peers and their remarks, to have phone calls and connect with those people, text messages, whatever it may be, that part's really filled my heart full, and I'm thankful for that.
Okay, Mr. H, we'll talk about today in a little bit, but I've got to go back to 2000, 2001. Yeah, I knew Jimmie's career in the Busch Series was not stellar.
Did you really know who I was in the Busch Series?
Absolutely.
Until Watkins Glen?
Yes, I did. I actually did. But that being said, when I went back and looked at the numbers, what did Jeff say to you to convince you that Jimmie Johnson was the guy to put in another Hendrick Motorsports car?
I think he said, we don't have a sponsor, and I'm up for it if you are. And so I thought that was a pretty darn good commitment there. Now, Jimmie was a good friend of my son Ricky, and Ricky told me he was going to be a champion. And the only time I've waited 3 or 4 hours to go home from a race was the night that Ricky invited Jimmie to ride home with us. And on the third lap, Ricky's alternator went out. So in St. Louis, I waited 3 hours.
I couldn't believe it. Ricky ran in the transporter after the race was over and said, "Hey, man, Mom and Dad are waiting for us at the plane. Let's go." I'm like, what are you doing here? We should be gone.
Did Jeff ever tell you what you did on the racetrack that impressed him?
We've talked some about it, but I know what I did in Michigan to catch his attention. I mean, my heroes in front of me were in the closing laps of the race, and I made a heavy commitment to try to pass him on the last lap, and I did. And luckily, I didn't clean us both out in the process, but because my career could have gone in a totally different direction.
I think that's the only time you've ever really said, "Hey, man, that guy's unbelievable." Because he was so amazed with his car control. So
there's a consistent theme there. He was going to bust his tail at Atlanta, and he was willing to go out over his skis, perhaps. So fast forward to today, Mr. H. What was, in the last few weeks, I think Jimmie told you about 3 weeks ago that this was the direction he was going. Tell us a little bit about that discussion, that process, and your thoughts about that.
Shock. Every time one of these drivers call me and want to come to my house, I know that's not a good situation. So But and Jimmie and I talked, and you know, I can think of a lot of stories about you, Mr. Gordon.
Told you might need a microphone.
But no, everybody knows Jimmie. He processes everything, and then when he's made up his mind, or he's not wishy-washy at all, and you know, he's done so much for us and for the sport. I mean, if you just said, I'm gonna make a list of what the perfect driver would be, you know, from the talent to the ability to work with sponsors, the athlete. He's just raised the bar at our company, from fitness to charity. You know, it's unbelievable how perfect he is. And so I wanted, whatever he wanted, I wanted for him. And I wanted it to be like, I told him back this year, I said, you don't have to, we're not on the clock. You tell me what you want to do, and we'll make it work. And so I thought he deserved that from our company. And I knew the day would come one day, but I should be the one retiring, not you. So, no, it was. I'm happy for him, because I want to see what the next chapter is, and he set the foundation and a benchmark for us at this company that we'll always, you know, strive to get there. And he's not going to. He's going to be a buddy and a friend, and we're going to do things together. And we've been partners in business. So this chapter is going on, but you know, he's just an unbelievable person and an unbelievable friend. So he's not just a driver to me; he's family.
You mentioned what he means to you personally, what he's meant to Hendrick Motorsports. How would you put into context what he has meant to the sport of NASCAR?
Well, you know, when you're a voted athlete of the year, and you run marathons and triathlons, and I'm not sure I could have ever gotten, and probably people don't know this, but get drivers to want to get together and debrief. You know, Jimmie said we should do that, and they did it. Everybody came. That's where it started in our sport. He was the guy that put that together. And I just think when you look back at a 7-time champion that did it right, he represented the sport as a true champion. You never had to make an excuse for Jimmie Johnson. He was always on his mark. He never embarrassed anybody, and he just a role model for kids, and a role model for drivers, and and an athlete that I don't see in any kind of sport that is that much committed to what he does in his job, to his family. And so, I mean, he is, everybody knows it, and I see a lot of his friends here. He's a special guy, and on top of that, he's one of the greatest that's ever been in a car. So I just feel very blessed that I can have a guy like this that came along, and thank you, Jeff, for pushing me along. And I'm just very blessed to have known him and have him in that car and win all the championships and all the races that he's done for us.
Well said. I'd like to open it up now to the media. Got a couple of microphones, one on each side. Please raise your hand, and when the microphone comes to you, please state your name and your affiliation, and we will start over on this side, and we'll try to go back and forth.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Jimmie, what was the tipping point when you finally realized, I'm going to retire, this is what I want to do, and I'm comfortable with my decision?
Yeah, I mean, many of you that know me, I love to have a plan and like to think things through, and I did plenty of that through the kind of spring and summer, just knowing that I'd have to make a decision. In my mind, I felt like I needed to make a decision by the end of the year, and nothing really hit me kind of in the gut with the feeling that I wanted to stay or stop at the end of 2020. And then as the year went on and we roll into October, the feeling just became real. I mean, it really did, and it felt good to think about it. So, you know, it was such a profound moment that, you know, I really take it back to the moment in time where I knew I wanted to buy a ring for her. Like, it was just that strong in my stomach. It was like, wow, this is this is what I want to do. So I, of course, talked to Shani about it, and then, some time kind of goes on there, and then I speak to Rick and Jeff and just kind of think it through a bit more. And I feel very, very good about my decision, and it's time, and it showed up. And I feel so fortunate that it showed up to me in that way. I've talked to greats like Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin, Jeff, Dale Jr., and everyone's had their own journey, and some of those guys maybe set a date and left before their heart really wanted to leave. Or, a lot of other athletes, their time is called and they don't have that opportunity to pick their moment. And, I feel very blessed and fortunate to have this opportunity. So, you roll that all up and it just feels right. And I'm ready.
You got 3 more over here. If there's others over here, raise your hand. Start with Nate and then go to Alan and Dustin.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Jimmie, that moment yesterday when you said you unfortunately interrupted Lydia's pancakes, it sounds like a moment where being a dad maybe supersedes being a NASCAR driver. How many moments have there been like that recently where maybe it's occurred to you that family was a big reason and kind of weighed in this decision, and how much did your daughters and Shani kind of impact this?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, this is about time. And I guess when I look at next year, I've been dreaming of racing as much as I could for 40 years. I started racing dirt bikes at 5, and I've chased that whole way. And we waited to start our family a little bit later, just trying to be smart with timing in some respects. But I know myself, and I knew that at some point that was going to really weigh on me, and I'm going to want to be around a lot more. And it's hard to believe that they're 9 and 6 now, and that much time has elapsed. But I've just had a fire in me to push for that and to stay at the track. And I still have that fire, and I am coming back next year. And next year is not a mail-it-in year. It is a year we're going to win races and compete for a championship. So, I know I can give what I need to this team for another year. And then after that, I'm ready to have some time back on my side and just have a better balance in life.
Alan Cavana, Fox Sports. You touched on it a little, but yeah, we've seen the Jeff and Dale Jr. approach to retirement. We still see him at the track all the time, and we've seen the Carl Edwards approach to it.
I don't know if we saw it. He's been gone.
What do you hope retirement looks like for you in terms of racing or not?
No, I'm wide open. This is not a retirement from driving race cars. This is slowing down from 38 weekends a year, and you certainly know the stress and pressure and grind that it takes. And 19 years in Cup, and then 2 years in the Xfinity Series, plus everything before that. Like, want a little more balance is really where that sits. But it's been a heck of a run, and we're going to keep going.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Rick, here to your left. Obviously, big shoes to fill. When do you feel like you have to have something in place on who is going to be in the 48? And obviously, by 2021, your drivers will have a lot more experience. It'll be Chase's 6th year, Alex and Williams' 4th year with the organization. Do you look at a veteran guy like Jimmie, or is it something like the hottest shoe at the time?
Yeah, I've already kind of picked the guy. Jeff Gordon's coming back.
I told you were going to need a microphone. You didn't take it.
No, listen, we got another year. Our company's really excited. We're going to put everything we've got behind all our cars, but, Cliff and Chad sitting here, a big part of Jimmie's career, and what he's done for this company, it's our goal just to give him the absolute best, and we want to see him go out on top, winning and get that championship. And so we actually talked about that the day after we got back from the race in Homestead. So we're just going to focus on Jimmie Johnson right now.
Jimmie, Ralph Shaheen from Speed Sport over here, pal. Obviously, you're still a very young man, and you haven't lost any of your speed behind the wheel. The wording on the press release was retiring from full-time NASCAR competition. Are there other events out there that as you look at your schedule, you say, if I am to do a one-off here or there, these are some events I'm, as a racer, very interested in possibly pursuing?
Absolutely, and as you can see, Rick might just call on you in a retirement party to come to come be full time again. So,
Don't
without
go to
a
France.
doubt, this is not retirement from racing. This is stepping down from the 38 weeks a year that it takes to be competitive, and the time that goes with that. I would come back and drive Cup cars for Rick, without a doubt. I mean, all options are open, honestly, except IndyCar on fast ovals.
I knew that was not going to happen.
But I really look forward to what might develop in 12 months from now, and see what opportunities might be out there. So I wouldn't mind going and getting dirty again. I know we have a history with off-road racing in the dirt, and I'll just kind of wait and see. And most importantly, I feel like I need to take a deep breath and just see what kind of comes from there, and put my family first instead of racing first for once, and take it from there.
Are there bucket list items for the family that you guys have to do something or go somewhere together?
Yeah, we love to travel. I could see us trying to see and travel around the world, see places and travel around the world. It is so new, and we are still kind of working through that whole process. We don't know what 21 will ultimately look like for us. So good news, announcing early, we've got a year to kind of work through that stuff and see where we're going.
Do we have other questions? Another one over here.
Yeah, Adam Stern, Sports Business Journal. Hey, Rick, how comfortable was Ally with this decision? And when they renewed about a month or two ago, did they know it was unlikely that Jimmie would stop after 2020, or was that another conversation you had to have with them recently?
Well, we were up front with them. We told them they were hoping that Jimmie would run for 5 more years, but they knew that, and they were aware that could happen. And they're excited because I think you'll see Ally get behind him as a sponsor in his last year like you've never seen anyone send a guy out before. And so they're happy for Jimmie. They're not happy that he's not going to be there, but they're good with it.
Got another one over here.
Jimmie, Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. Of all of those 83 points-paying Cup races that you've won so far in your career, which one do you think was the most significant, or the one that you value the most?
For me, I go to the first. My dream was to be a Cup driver and to win a race. That was the top for me. So to be able to do that in my 13th start, my home track, that was a very, very special moment.
That reminds me of the conversation I think I've heard. Tell the story of the first meeting you had with Lowe's, and I think it was the CEO, Bob Tillman, at the time.
Bob Tillman, yes.
What was that like?
We had a meeting just across the street over here, Rick's old office area, and the Lowe's folks were there, and Tillman was waiting for me to arrive. I had a sponsor commitment for my Busch team and was just getting back to town from it. And Bob wanted to look me in the eyes and find out if I was really willing to man up and win a race for the company. And at that point, they hadn't won a race, and he literally stared across the boardroom table and put me on the spot, asked me if I thought I was able to win a race. And I dug deep and sat there, and I felt like I lied right into his eyes and said, "Yes, sir, I can." And thankfully, we delivered 83 times since.
Win a race check times 83. Nate, and then Doug.
Jimmie, I know you said you still have the fire to compete and do well next year, but what is the outlook for 2020, knowing that 2019, you didn't win, obviously didn't end, I think, the way you wanted it to. Is it win and make the playoffs? Is it win and make the playoffs and still contend for a championship? What is the outlook? And also, stemming off of that, did the 2021 car play in your decision at all, knowing that it's going to be a complete reset that year?
Yeah, first of all, the outlook for next year is absolutely to win races and be in that Final Four. And if you're in the Final Four, the Championship Four, I should say, at Phoenix now, you've got a shot. And that is absolutely the goal for next year. I have the fire. Our team is getting stronger. I think Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, we've had a great evolution through the course of 2019. We have some new things coming our way for 2020. And just pulling back and looking at the opportunity this company has in 2020, and then myself with it being my final full-time year, that's a special opportunity. And that did kind of go into my thought process. In my head, which I've probably never shared, 20 years has always felt like a nice round number to be a full-time driver. I can see what 2020 looks like. I don't know, much like all of us in here, we don't know what 21 looks like. So it didn't play a role in my decision-making process, but when I'm looking around trying to find things to sway me one way or the other, it's like, man, 2020 just looks like an awesome opportunity.
We got another one here with Doug, one over here, and then we'll come back. I think it was Jordan back there.
Doug Rice, PRN. Jimmie, the converse of Scott's question, the one that got away that still gnaws on you when you wake up in the middle of the night.
There's two.
Okay.
There's probably more than two, but Coke 600. For rookie year, Coke 600, I'm really soft at getting in the pit box. We lead 500 miles of that thing, Chad? 500 plus. And he's like, come on, buddy, get in the pit box harder. We got to get it in here. I slide through the box, come out in third or fourth, and work my way back to second, and left that one on the table. So that one I definitely remember.
We need
He
two
didn't
microphones
encourage me
up
to get in
here.
the box for years after that. He's like, hey, you just take your time. Come on in at your own pace. One other one is, and I still today swear that I should have 12 wins at Dover. Juan Pablo spun the tires on a restart and bailed and made me look bad, and I beat him to the start-finish line and got called on it. So that's another one that comes to mind.
There's Mike Helton.
There he is.
You can protest.
Mike, thought you were going to get away on this one. I think we had another one over here.
It's Seth Egger kicking the tires. I actually have two questions, one for Jimmie and one for Rick. Jimmie, is there a specific track that you're going to miss going to?
Man, I really do enjoy racing at all of them. I mean, I think it took me a little while to fall in love with the road courses, which is kind of odd with my background, but I really enjoy going there. Dover is always going to have a special place in my heart, but I don't, and it's so new, so I'm not sure what I'm going to miss, but first blush at it, there's nothing that I'm eager to get away from. I'm excited to go back and see these places, race at these places, see my fans, maybe my last Daytona 500. Some of these moments that are going to be out there are going to be really special, so my head's much more in that space.
And for Rick, of his 83 wins, which one stands out to you the most?
I think the first one. I think that's always the one that breaks the ice. And I was standing with Tillman in your pits when you slid through the box. I think it's the first one. You think about the championship, you think about Daytona, you think about Indy. I mean, you had so many wins, but the celebration when you win your first one, I think that's the one.
Okay. Got another one over here, then Marty, and then we've got three more over here.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic again. Jimmie, can you take me through the conversation with Rick of when you told him, when it was, and just kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, as we were talking, it was 3 weeks ago, something like that, at his house. And on a funny note, I did mention to him, I think twice, maybe 3 times, that 2020 was going to be my last year, and he never reacted. And then the 4th time, he said, I guess you're serious about this, aren't you? Yeah.
I was waiting for something else beyond that.
Marty?
Howdy, boys. This is for both of you guys. That was the piece of cake on the fork race, that 600, wasn't it? Several years ago, I can remember asking you after you won 6 what you hope your legacy is. And you said, I got a hell of a lot of racing left to do. Well, now you got 38 more. What do you hope is your legacy once you're done with this? And Rick, I want to know what you think his legacy is too.
Yeah, legacy-wise, I feel that I'm a people person, and I've built a lot of extremely meaningful relationships in this industry, in this garage area. I go back to my younger years in various teams and series that I raced in, and there's always been a feeling there in a friendship and a bond and a respect. So ultimately, it's that respect and being one of the good guys out there on the track. When I think back, it's my 18 years so far. my mind goes to those memories and to the people that I share those memories with, not standing holding a trophy somewhere, you know. So it's much more that headspace of being remembered than stats. You know, it's more that heartfelt thing than stats.
Mr. H., your perspective?
I think that the kind of person he is, everybody that looks at the stats, and yeah, he 7-time champion, 5 in a row. I don't think anybody will ever do that again. And but I think that how the respect he has from other athletes that aren't in our sport, other people that he friends with. But I think when you can do it and do it right and win like he did and set records that probably no one will ever break, and nobody can say anything bad about Jimmie Johnson, on the track, off the track. I mean, he's just I think sometimes people didn't respect him because he was too perfect. You know, that he didn't have that big edge, but he could win and do it like that and be, you know, a gentleman, race people clean, never had any problems. And so I think when history looks back at him, they'll say that this guy was, you know, an unbelievable athlete, father, you know, charities. He and Shanny give so much away. And I mean, I think in every box that you check in life, you know, what you do with kids, how you raise your family, and you're a champion. And you just, every sponsor that he's had, it's just, and have it too. But, you know, they love him to death. And so I just think it's the kind of, the stats speak for themselves, but people are going to remember the man, Jimmie Johnson.
Well said. Deb?
Deb Williams racing today. This is for Jimmie and Rick. You have 7 championships, and looking back over those 7, which one jumps out to you as the toughest, the one that you thought was going to slip through your fingers?
Yeah, for me, 06 for sure. We had some trouble in the way the playoff format worked out. We had 2 big moments, and one in Talladega that everybody probably remembers, trying to pass Dale for the win, and Vickers and I get tangled up, and we spin Dale, and you know, at that point, with just a handful of races left in the championship, I didn't think it was going to happen, and it did. So that's the one that comes to mind for me.
Mr. H., you?
What was the question was?
The
most
championship
memorable?
that you thought might get away.
I thought the 7th, because I didn't think we were really going to be in it at the way we were running. And then they had the caution at the end, and man, he got up on the wheel, and I think that was one that you didn't have any time to get ready for. I mean, it was just like in a few laps, and hey, you're the champion. It was unbelievable.
Got another one back here.
Brett Baldeck, Fox 46 Charlotte. Jimmie, as much as you've done on the track, you've done even more off the track. Just explain why it's important that you do give back, and just maybe some of your favorite memories from over the years through your foundation, and just how you plan to continue that once you're done racing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always just felt extremely blessed and fortunate to be in the situation I'm in. And as time went on, we felt like we could help more and at a larger level. But I think that opportunity was set up just due to the experiences I had as a kid in racing in the off-road series. And the series would take the drivers to a local children's hospital, and we'd walk the floors and pass out hats and stickers and stuff. And that just left a mark in my mind and in my heart, I guess, probably more than anything, how it felt to give and how to help put a smile on someone's face. And that's why our foundation focuses on children primarily. And our kind of early focus was families in need, and we built a block in my hometown and put families in some homes with Habitat for Humanity. I guess the bowling alley up at Victory Junction Gang Camp was our very first project that we funded, and then now we're involved with public education. So, you know, I'm a kid at heart, and in that memory and that experience that I have, being a young teenager going into a children's hospital stuck with me today and has really led our focus to where it is now, charity-wise.
Jenna?
Jenna Fryer, AP. Jimmie, I noticed the Patron, which is so very on brand for you, which many people don't know. And you've been accused for 18 years of being vanilla and boring. And I'm wondering if at the end of 2020 that wild side is going to become more public.
I guess we'll find out.
And why keep it such a secret all these years?
I don't. It's not intentional. And you've witnessed plenty of when my head is out of the racing space. And I've said this all along. I'm not very smart. So when I come to the track, I got to try really hard, and that prevents me from being the person you see that's so carefree.
Got another one over here. Alan.
Alan Cavan, Fox Sports. For Rick, you've seen a lot of race car drivers, employed a lot of race car drivers. What do you think allowed Jimmie to be so successful for so long?
I think his drive. I think his attention to detail, his work ethic, trying to prepare for the season. He's like a computer in the car. I've always, Chad was, the two of them were the dynamic duo. And I would listen on the radio as he would break the corner down into, like a tenth. And the way he could do that, running 200 miles an hour, was pretty remarkable. And I just think he wanted it so bad, and he was like in the car, out of the car, and I think the combination was unbelievable. And he's just, if he's going to run a marathon, he's going to be the best. Whatever he decides he wants to do, he wants to be the best. And he doesn't just say it; he does it. I mean, he prepares for it. So I think you just don't find a lot of people in life that are willing to make the sacrifice, and when they set a goal that they just absolutely will never yield from what it takes to get it done.
Nate, and then back to Dustin.
First, I just got one real quick, Jimmie. Now that you've put yourself on the free agent market to run IMSA and IndyCar street and road courses, have you made any inroads on that at all? Have you talked to any teams?
No, I haven't talked to anybody.
Okay, just had to confirm.
But I saw them all pinging me on social media, like, "Hey, Dibs, come race here." So even the World of Outlaws sent me a tweet.
You have any preference on team or series you want to go first?
No, nothing now. Haven't thought about it.
And then, how much did 2019 and the struggles this year impact this decision? How much of an influence was the performance not being there as it had been in the past?
I mean, truthfully, it's had very little implication on me making the decision. There's been a feeling I've been waiting for in getting older and later in my career. I've just been aware of it, and I've been waiting for that feeling to show up. And I didn't know when, and I didn't know why, but it did. And in my heart of hearts, it was not because of the struggles of the last couple of years. Life's a journey, as we all know. Motorsports is a ruthless sport, and it doesn't matter who you are. It can eat you up and spit you out the other side. And I feel so fortunate that I had just this magical moment for so many years, and in 5 in a row, the 7 championships that we had. The journey to get there was a long, challenging one, and we've joked about my stellar Busch Series career some. I feel like these last 2 years are kind of like I'm back in that Busch car a little bit. So, and I say that with a lot of respect to that moment in time in that Busch car, because that gave me a stronger work ethic. That lit the fire. That made me work harder. And then when timing was right and my opportunity was right, I took the most of that opportunity and made stuff happen. And I feel like that's coming. I feel like 2020 can be that moment for me. And these last 2 years are just part of that in building up for what could be a really special year.
Okay, got time for 2 more, Dustin, and then the last one will go over here.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I have one for Rick and one for Jimmie. And first for Rick, throughout your years of racing, you've known and seen Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt race. And I'm curious, what is one quality or element about Dale and one quality and element about Richard that you see in Jimmie? Not that they're all the same people, but what's one thing that you see out of Dale that you see in Jimmie, and one you see out of Richard that you see in Jimmie?
Golly, I didn't see Richard race that much in his prime, but he was good everywhere, and Jimmie's been that way. Dale was a different driver than Jimmie. Jimmie has been more of a finesse driver. And I've always been amazed to watch him at a place like California, where he talks about drifting into the corner at 220 and letting the car slide up to the wall, and he's a half a second quicker than everybody else. And I think Dale was an intimidator, and Dale could figure out how to get to the end of a race and be in a chance to win it in every race. And Richard, I mean, I would like to have seen them all run together at their prime, but I think they're three different kinds of drivers looking back and remembering the talent that all of them had. But I think Jimmie has been like a machine that could really dissect a car like I never saw before. So I don't know if I answered your question, but it'd be hard to compare because they're different styles and different eras, and then a bias ply tire and a radial tire. It's hard to compare.
Yeah, I didn't know if there's anything on or off the track that you saw between the two of them.
Well, I think Richard Petty's a great ambassador. I can't believe at his age he still does what he does for our sport. I mean, he's the king and will always be the king. And I think Dale had a tremendous amount of fans that I was amazed when he passed the reaction the world had. So both of those guys really, they are legendary, and they made a mark, big mark in our sport. And I think Jimmie is going to be in that same category. I know he is because of his championships. And so, sometimes after you retire, people really appreciate you more than when you're actually in the fight. So.
And Jimmie, it's obviously the night before you made your first qualifying attempt at Charlotte, it was the accident with Blaze, and you've always honored him with having the little initials on the left front bumper of your car. Next year is the last year that will be on your car and go around. It's quite a tribute for almost 20 years to think that will be the last year to be honoring Blaze in that way. What does that mean when you think about all these things?
Wow, just good memory. Man, I hadn't thought about it one bit. Clearly, he was a very special friend. And that night, and losing him, and just everything about it was crazy. And I guess that was in 2001, so it will be 20 full years when it's all said and done, because that next morning I came to drive my Xfinity car, and Blaze was very close with a lot of guys on my team, and one of the guys took a Sharpie and drew that on the left front of the car. And then he ended up coming to work at Hendrick for us and started with a Sharpie drawing that on every week, and then eventually made a sticker that went on. So that's been on ever since that night. But it'll be a heck of a tribute, and thank you for bringing that up. I'm not sure I would have picked up on it anytime soon, and I'm still very close with his family, and we'll definitely find a way to have some moments about that, or around that. Thank you.
Last one over here.
Peter Strada, TSJ Sports. Jimmie, as you look forward to next season, you've seen teammates and several other drivers go through this retirement process in recent years. Is there one race or moment you're eagerly awaiting above others?
I think the magnitude of maybe my last Daytona 500 is in the forefront of my mind, what that might be like. In my heart, I'm excited to go back to, I'm excited that I know what next year looks like, because California is early on the schedule, and to go back to my home track, I'm glad I have that answer, and we can go home and celebrate. Past that, I haven't really thought too much, but those two tracks come to mind.
Final thoughts, Mr. H. We'll start with you.
I don't know how to thank you, buddy, for being the champion and the leader and friend and everything you meant to this company, and given us all these championships and done some unbelievable things. And we'll always be grateful, and we'll always be appreciative. And I got your number.
Jimmie?
Thank you. I know you got my number, and I'm expecting it to ring. We're going to have a lot of fun, whatever it is. But I'm just so thankful to literally have chased a dream since I was a kid to race, and it's just thankful. Just very, very thankful. Thankful for the relationships that I've built in this sport. I don't know, my mind's running wild on me right now, and I'm trying not to cry. But just thank you.
Well, we want to thank everybody from Jimmie's Facebook page, NASCAR.com, SiriusXM Channel 90 for listening. And I'd like to close with one thought that I think embodies that we've all had these experiences. So I'm leaving the hall last night after having talked to Jesse Essex about being a part of this today and what did I reflect on with Jimmie. And I recall talking about the comparisons with Jimmie and Richard and Dale. Dale Inman has a quote in his video, or in Richard Petty's video in the Hall of Fame that says, "What Richard did off the track impresses me a lot more than what he did on the track." And what he did on the track was pretty dang impressive. And I'm thinking about that and think that reminds me of Jimmie Johnson. The phone rings, I look down, I didn't recognize the number. And you get so many robocalls, you don't tend to take them all, and I just said, "Hello. It's Jimmie Johnson just calling to say thanks for coming today." He didn't need to do that. He could have done that today. And we chatted for a while. I think I heard the girls in the background. But he took the time to talk. He took the time to call. That's quintessential Jimmie Johnson, in my opinion. And it's not what he's done in the sport that I think, Marty, that we will remember him for. And what he's done in the sport has been dang impressive. But it's what he's done for the sport and the class and character that he and Channy have done it through their foundation, through the kids that they've touched. So on our behalf, thank you for letting us be a part of it. Thank you for being that same person and for setting that example for us and for kids. And we look forward to what you chasing 8 this year and celebrating you much throughout this year. And oh yeah, there is a date a few years down the road that we'll talk about later for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. But thank you so much for everything, for a great career, and we look forward to this year.
I appreciate it. I do. And my friends, thank you all for coming and being here today. My family, of course, NASCAR, the press, everybody in this room. I see a lot of very familiar faces, and I know some that couldn't make it, but just a sincere thank you. It's been so much fun. We still have a great year ahead of us to have a lot more fun, and I just appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the media, don't forget he left you a little gift.
I might need one right now.